Are we ready? All right, thank you. We'd like to welcome everyone back. I'm calling our regular meeting back to order. We are on item F, which is our public, item F, which is our public comment. We allow up to 1 hour for public comment. Where's my list? There it is. Okay. Just a few comments before we proceed. When you entered the boardroom, you should have picked up some guidelines relative to our public comment. This is the public's time to speak, and the board will listen. There will be no questions or engagement with the speakers. Individuals may comment for up to 3 minutes. So we've set aside this time both at the beginning and at the end of our meeting. Both are opportunities for the public to provide comment. The school board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Our meetings are orderly. We also use Robert's Rules of Order, which really provides structure to our meetings. And with that, we are going to open up for public comment. First, we have telephonically, I think he's here, Mr. Kemp, Danielle Kemp. Welcome, you have 3 minutes.
This is on, all right. Thank you to the board for having me this evening. My name is Danielle Kemp, and I am being racially discriminated against by ASD administrators for being Black and disagreeable. The last few months, I've been the target of racially discriminatory and unethical evaluations by administrators and their boss, which all stem from
point of order or point of concern.
State your concern.
We have a appeal process through our evaluative process, which I don't believe it is a public testimony item, and I believe we should be following that. And I would like our chief human resource officer to correct me if I'm incorrect or.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. Through the president, I believe Dr. Bishop is referencing any number of processes available through personnel matters that may be available to this person testifying tonight. And also, as the board president is aware, personnel matters generally are not subject to discussion in this forum.
Point of clarification then? Is that allowed?
Mr. K, to who? Me?
Through the president then, yes ma'am. So may I speak on behalf of my organization for an individual who is going through these sorts of things?
You may testify on anything that is not having to do with the district confidential process, such as evaluation.
Okay.
Because anything that may come before this board relative to any employment issue, it's inappropriate for it to be testified on at this time.
Okay, all right.
So if your comments are about your organization, you may proceed.
Okay, I believe I was stopped at about 2 minutes and 22 seconds. Can we get that time back?
Give him his time.
Thank you.
Can you? Well, we'll have to do it a different way because she's already. Did you stop it at the time when? Okay.
Okay.
Just a minute. We'll try. She can get it to 2 minutes, and I will do the other 22 seconds.
Thank you very much. All right. So My story is not unique. I'll have to start there. My story is not unique, though. Other BIPOC folks in the district, and Black folks in particular, have been targeted by this administration. Just today, the ASD's first Black fine arts director was forced to resign in year one of a 3-year term due to racist treatment.
Madam President, this is even of another.
Yeah, you cannot talk about individuals who can be personally identified, Mr. Kemp.
Okay. All right.
And we will not restart your time.
Okay. Well, that's kind of difficult then, because I'm just talking about Black folks who can be identified. So we are not alone. There are countless Black BIPOC educators and students who have and still are experiencing this. To the school board, I ask that you take BIPOC folks' account of racism more seriously. Do a complete overhaul of ASD board policy. If your anti-racism policy was enough, then all of us would not be going through this. To our new incoming superintendent, I implore you to please clean house on day one. Right now, the ASD's senior administration is sick with racist individuals who believe in stuff like anti-CRT rhetoric and the great replacement theory. Clean house, start fresh, and empower the diversity that all of us like to brag about, but not empower it. I'm the president and co-founder of the Alaska Coalition of BIPOC Educators, and I approve this message. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Next, we have Kevin Voss in person. Kevin, welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Voss, and I've been a social studies teacher and debate coach at Begich Middle School for 12 years. And I first met Steve Johnson, who you're about to meet here in a little bit, in 2011 when he visited our school hoping to pitch this idea of a middle school debate program. I was immediately drawn to this proposal as Begich had always offered a strong mix of athletic opportunities, but few, if any, extracurricular academic programs. So for the first couple of years, I taught it as an elective, and whereas some students sought out enrollment in this class, others were admittedly placed there because other electives had filled up. Now, after those first couple of years, however, I realized that many students who were enrolled in other electives wanted to pursue debate, but could only do so if it were offered outside of the school day. And that is where I decided to begin an after-school program. Begich was able to offer me an addenda through Title I funds, and for the last 10 years, we have had a steadily increasing number of committed students in our program. As to why this program has been successful, it simply comes down to the fact that these kids love it, which I'm sure you heard in my students' testimonials earlier this evening. Debate offers an alternative for students who are not involved in sports. But more importantly, it draws students who are keenly interested in the complex topics of the world around them. We've debated everything from the environment to healthcare, education to social media. The kids are required to look at both sides of these issues, causing them to at least reflect on prior held beliefs and what their societies tell them. Debate also gives kids the chance to find their voice. I've had students who were terrified at the prospect of speaking in front of an audience go on to become poised and confident young public speakers. But with all these benefits, enrollment in our program has waned in recent years. Between 2015 and 2017, our tournaments averaged 25 to 30 teams, with typically 6 or more schools attending. For the last 2, however, it has been reduced to 15 to 20, with only 4 schools being represented. One reason for that is that at most schools, it is only offered as an elective. And if a school has certain scheduling needs, as it has for me, then it gets bumped. Recognizing debate as an extracurricular activity would provide schools the opportunity to hire coaches, and in the long run, I feel this is the only way it will survive. I sometimes laugh at the fact that I have a bunch of teenagers who stick around for 90 minutes after school to read, write, and work. In our pursuit of academic rigor, our district should celebrate these efforts and show its full support of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Voss. Steve Johnson. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
President Bellamy, members of the board, thank you very much. My name is Steve Johnson. I'm the director of the Seal of Debate program at UAA, and I'm very happy to be here tonight to speak on behalf of the middle school public debate program. We inaugurated this program, as you heard from Mr. Voss, about 10 years ago, and we're delighted when it caught fire pretty quickly. Though it was always uncertain as to whether or not there would be schools and students interested in participating in this, I had confidence that they would do so, largely because of my experience in debate, both as a participant as well as a coach for many years. Quite literally, debate provided the intellectual foundation for my entire life. I grew up in a small community in South Dakota and didn't have much by the way of extracurricular activities that engaged me intellectually. I had the good fortune when I went to university to find a debate program under the guidance of a really terrific teacher, and eventually became somebody who wanted to give back to what had given me so much over the course of my life. So when I became a debate coach for the University of Alaska, one of my priorities was making sure that other students in our community had that same opportunity that we had. So we started this debate league about 10 years ago. And as you heard from Mr. Voss, it took off very quickly. That part was no surprise to me, largely because I knew that the students, when presented with an opportunity to engage in these intellectual conversations and the challenge of making arguments against opponents, would find that as thrilling as I did, and it's proved time and time again to be true. I want to tell you a little bit about how the system, how the debate league works and what we're looking for in terms of support from the school board. So we have a course of 4 tournaments scheduled throughout the year, 1 each quarter. We invite all schools to participate in those tournaments. As you heard from Mr. Voss, fewer and fewer schools are doing so, largely because of some of the challenges that we've faced over the last few years. But those tournaments are the product of a lot of preparation on the part of the students. We announce the debate topics about 6 weeks prior to those tournaments. The students work, research, and prepare their arguments, come to either a middle school or to the university campus, and engage in a day-long tournament where they are put through a course of about 6 debate rounds in order to determine the winner. So imagine, if you will, not only an after-school program meeting, but a group of students gathering on a Saturday to study, to think, to engage one another, and to be excited about it. It's a wonderful thing. What we need to make this program grow, though, is a vote of confidence from the Anchorage School District. We need support in terms of recognition as an official after-school activity. It is not currently. It's run exclusively by the Seal of Debate program and the good intentions of all of the teachers who are willing to give their time to it. We need addenda for the teachers who are willing to give their time to it. Mr. Voss has been fortunate to benefit from being a Title I school. Not all schools have those resources. It's appropriate that the coaches be provided that. And we need an operating budget for those schools that want to have a debate program to allow them to purchase the resources and to attend the tournaments that they need to attend to get their students excited.
And thank you very much.
When in personal privilege, Madam President?
Yes.
I know in this setting, we're not allowed to ask questions or engage in debate, but this is really an offer of a partnership. And I'm wondering if we can schedule a work session this spring where we would have more time to ask questions and look at details and converse on it.
So if you would submit that as an RFI, that would be great.
I would be delighted to. Thank you.
That's probably the best way for that now. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
And if it takes 2, I'd be on there too.
Thank you.
Holloman.
Next. Thank you, sir. Send that, one of you send it to Katie, please. Next, we have Leola Rutherford. Leola Rutherford in person. Did we lose her? Okay, I'm not seeing her. We'll come back maybe. How about David Little? Hi, David. Welcome. And you have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Madam President, Board, Superintendent, nice to see you. I'm here tonight wearing a different hat. I'm a parent. I have 2 beautiful students. They were inspired. They were connected with. They were fueled by Adam Johnson, a teacher at Romig Middle School, who happens to give up all his time, his personal time, to run debate there. My oldest, I get to talk about my two favorite things. My oldest son is an 11th grader. His name's Harrison. He started this in debate, 7th grade, 8th grade, and with Mr. Johnson as one of his coaches and guides and judges, he competed in middle school. He then goes on to 9th grade, and he becomes a state debate champ. 10th grade was COVID. 11th grade, second in the state in the event, won multiple region competitions. And it was because of the research they do, the way they structure their arguments, the way they're taught to present their viewpoints and how they debate back and forth. He has blossomed, he has thrived, and it's all because of that. And his mom. He's now on the ASA board. He is also on the executive board for student governments. He is also on the Anchorage Youth Advisory Committee. He's an IB student and one of the most vocal ones with a 4.2 GPA, and he's also a 3-sport athlete. It's a lot to say it came just from Adam Johnson at Romig. But he's the one that gave him the voice. He's the one that taught him how to use it more. I now have a son who's going to be a 9th grader, and he's been with Mr. Johnson for 2 years. He's looking forward to competing in high school. He had a ball competing in middle school. And he's arguably brighter than the first one. He'll tell you that. You know, their classmates have gone on to prestigious schools. They've gone on to Yale. They've gone and gotten scholarships. And coming out of Romig, starting in Romig for debate, they've gotten scholarship to college and gotten college paid for because of debate. They all know that UAA is one of the dream teams in this country. They all know Steve Johnson. I can't say enough great things what they've done for my children.
And thank you very much. There we go. Next, we have Rosalind Grady. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for providing me with this opportunity. It's me, Roz. What a year. As you know, I'm a mom of 5. I'm in my senior year, 3.64 GPA, and I'm 36 years old. I graduated from Damon in 2003, the last class of the old school, and I will be student teaching in January. I pray that my thing here doesn't cause any friction to my career, but here we go. I am here because I have received many complaints from children, families, and employees on the mistreatment they received while being a person of color. And I just ask, will you please change the narrative? Oh, and you do not know about it because who are they supposed to trust? Besides myself, my executive committee, and even other organizations like ABC and the NAACP. This is actually happening to their very own. We are here for 3 reasons: the safety and well-being of children, employees, and families in communities of color, equity and academic opportunities and curriculum, and hiring and retention of educators of color. The last one, I have been here for the last, and I believe 5 years, and they've been flying out of here. Educators of color fly out of here. We wonder why. The climate is horrible, and I'll come back to that. You have educators that genuinely love their job, the children and their families that they are educating. We realize that educators of color or children and their families were not being properly represented, and that the climate was very dangerous to work in. We do not do this for a check. We believe in our public education, and we want to make a difference in all areas when it comes to children of the Anchorage School District. All of your educators have been to school and worked hard for their degrees. I don't even know if they're like me. I'm pretty sure they're paying student loans, but I literally pay out of pocket every 2 weeks. No matter the color of their skin, we're here to educate. And what is sad about the climate is that it is very dangerous, and at the point it's scaring and controlling voices. And this is scary to know someone in a higher position than me can stop my whole process, all because they do not like me or they do not like what I'm doing for my community. There's a lot of trauma here, and I have no idea how we're going to fix this besides changing the narrative. The trauma is real at this point, and that's probably why it's hard to hire and retain people of color. Now, what I have to look forward to just happens. My principal supported me and mentored me, but he's leaving to go to another school. And I just happen to be receiving another awesome mentor. But again, I am one of the lucky ones. What about all your other educators who may have been hushed, support staff who don't feel safe or heard, directors who may not be saying things they know are wrong, and school board members who have no idea what is really going on in their schools? I will not stand by and allow this to stop me from doing what I do best. That is work in the best interest of children I educate and will be educating. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Okay, next telephonic, we have Jasmine Smith. She's not there. Okay. What is Leola Rutherford here? Okay. Kaya Kaltenborn? Or is it Kaya? Kaltenborn. Kaya? Star 6.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you. Welcome. You have
Great.
3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Kaya Coltenborn. I am a teacher and parent at Rogers Park. I would like you to separate the enrollment numbers of our dual program when allocating teachers to Rogers Park. Please look back at the previous written testimonies and emails that you have received. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaya. And next we have Jared Woods. Jared, star 6 to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Jared Woods. I am the father of 2 boys that attend Rogers Park Elementary School on the neighborhood side. I'm very concerned about the plan to cut teachers from Rogers Park on the neighborhood side. Classes on the neighborhood side have roughly twice as many students per class than the classes on the highly gifted side. Some of these classes have over 30 students, while classes at the same grade level on the highly gifted side have only 15. Now, I grew up here in Alaska, and I spent my entire all my public school years at ASD schools. And I had many great teachers that made a huge impact on me, and I'm very, very grateful for the education I received. I want my boys to look back on their public school careers and be able to say the same thing. And it makes it really hard if they're in a class with almost 40 students for them to have the same experience. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our public comment. People signed up for public comment. There are other written public comment attached to the agenda through board docs. That brings us to item G, consent agenda.
Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any opposition?
We have to do a roll call.
All right. Seeing no opposition, we'll have to do a vote. Actually, we have a member virtual, so we'll have to do a roll call. Katie, whenever you're ready.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Member Lessons.
Yes.
Vice President Jacobs.
Yes.
Member Holloman.
Yes.
Member Higgins is not present. Member Donnelly.
Yes.
President Bellamy.
Yes. Okay, and that motion passes 6-0. And one abstention, or one not present vote. Yeah. Thank you. That leads us to item H, which are our action items. Student hearing.
Madam President, I move to approve the expulsion of the student associated with ASD incident number 1341837 as discussed in executive session.
Second.
Been moved in second to approve the uncontested hearing. Expulsion, sorry. And this would have been for the 5 o'clock session today because there were two. Thank you.
Member Donnelly.
Yes.
Member Higgins is not present. Member Holloman.
Yes.
Vice President Jacobs.
Yes.
Member Lessons.
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
President Bellamy.
Yes. And that motion passes 6 yeas, no nays, and 1 member not present. And that is again for the 5 p.m. session. Moving on, public comment. Is there do we have anybody signed up for public comment on? Oh, I see, we do. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah. Right, so we're now on memorandum number 126. What is your pleasure, board?
Yeah, they have to move.
We're on it. We're on the action item. Right? Yeah. So we're all just supposed to move it into action. Yeah, right.
Madam President, I move to approve ASD memorandum number 126, the request to name Polaris K-12 school gym, the Coach Damon athletic facility in honor of Damon and Carey.
Second.
Moved in second, and I know we have we should have people signed up for that one. We have Melissa Carey. Welcome, Melissa. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
Take your time.
I'm joined with my husband's sister, Sarah Carey Williams, who's also an educator in the district. Good evening, Madam Superintendent, school board members, Anchorage School District staff, and especially the Polaris K-12 community. My husband, Damon, had been a teacher at Polaris K-12 Alternative School for the past 22 years. I know personally, without a doubt, that he believed in the importance of physical education and contributed to the Polaris philosophy and legacy. He started each day with open gym prior to the start of the school day. Damon taught all 13 grade levels throughout the day. He enjoyed keeping the gym open during lunch so students had a safe alternative place for activity and would do anything after school to help out where he was ever needed. He always offered a helping hand and never said no to whatever was asked of him, staff members and students alike. My husband made it his goal as a physical education educator to make sure that each and every student that walked through his gym doors was treated with respect and encouraged to do their very best. Damon made it his educational philosophy that he would find ways to help all achieve their athletic goals. However, it was not how well people performed at a sport that was important to Damon. It was how much effort they gave. He wanted students to learn lifelong healthy activities so they could implement them through their daily lives and make healthy choices in their own future. Damon's main reason for this philosophy was that he was born with type 1 diabetes. To him, he was never going to allow his disease to control his physical capabilities. Many who knew Damon knew that he was a very incredible athlete. In high school, he played football and won 2 state titles. He played basketball, track, and hockey. In his spare time, when he was not participating in school sports, he made sure he was in the gym working out at least 4 to 6 times a week. Damon even holds lifting records at his alma mater, Bartlett High School. He had maintained this mindset that physical activity leads to a healthy future. As a teacher, one of the biggest passions was the Alyeska Ski Winter Intensive, which he started 21 years ago. This annual program offers students an opportunity to learn how to ski and snowboard and improve their athletic ability on the mountain. The program grew in numbers throughout the years and ended up being one of the most interesting intensives offered for 6-12 graders at Polaris. Damon always looked forward to this time of year, whether it was the hours spent on the bus rides, checking in at the day lodge, or actually riding the mountain with his students. The improvements and skills achieved by the students filled Damon with joy and pride. He always enjoyed running into his students during the winter ski season at Alyeska and witnessed firsthand the great improvements as his students from the years ago demonstrated to him from time to time again. Our family has always been active. How could you not be? We're both physical education teachers in the household. Damon's nonstop activity and his "it's a mindset" philosophy will always resonate through our family. The love for the outdoors and the physical activity, a part of our daily routine, as it has been for all these years. Damon would be honored if all Polaris students maintained his mentality throughout their daily routines. To have this mindset at Polaris K-12 will ensure that his philosophy will continue as each student walks through the gym doors. Our family is honored that Damon is remembered in this way. Thank you for this opportunity, as I know Damon is looking down in such disbelief. Damon has made such a positive impact at Polaris and will continue to do so for so many generations to come. Thank you for bestowing this honor to acknowledge my husband's and Dak's father contributions to Polaris K-12 school and community. Thank you, Melissa and Dak Carey.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, we have Corey Angst. Welcome.
Thank you, President Bellamy, and thank you, board members. I just want to second two points that Missy spoke to. Damon was part of a colleague of mine for 14 years at Polaris K-12 and a role model. The students, the families, and staff want to memorialize everything he stood for, because it really went with the Polaris philosophy. Every one of our schools has a culture, Polaris, for sure. Damon, one of the things that Damon did that you all would find really important was his ability to connect with students. We review scores every board meeting, but we don't review very often the connections. We talk about them, but we don't really have good data on the connections that are made. Damon had connections with every single one of his students, K through 12. That was one of the positions he was in, and he was able to really to build off that. He would offer incentives to some of the elementary classes for additional physical activity, which allowed some of us to experience and utilize additional planning time. But I always knew, and the teachers always knew, it wasn't for me to have additional planning time. It was to give the students additional time with him as an incentive to do something, whether it was jump rope for heart or what other type of activity he was encouraging them to participate. His ability to draw on and build those connections over a life, over 12 years for some of those students was incredible. He's a huge loss. He was one of our diamonds. He was one of our diamonds. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Seeing no other testimony, we have the motion before us. We'll do a roll call vote whenever you're ready, Katie.
Madam President,
Yes.
I wanted to comment before.
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Full disclosure, I am a former Polaris parent way back when. And sometime earlier this year, I was at Polaris, and I honestly can't remember why exactly. But after whatever I was doing, I stayed over for a student government meeting, and it was a meeting where the petition for this renaming was being circulated out to the classrooms. And Polaris is a little different. And it was just neat to watch because this was not presented as this is what we're going to do. It's presented as we need to gather the opinion of every kid in the school. And you as the representative of your class are going to go back. This is a resolution. This is why we're trying to do it. We want to find out if your student, if the kids in your class support this or they don't. It really wasn't a push to say yes. It was a push to get the feedback. But a number of students talked about what Mr. Carey meant to them. It is a school that is much more of a family than your average school. And it's very moving when students want to do something like this. There are a few places around the district named after educators that worked in a building. And it just means a great deal. And in this case, I think extremely fitting. And it's what students and faculty want. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Holloman. You are absolutely correct. The students drove this bus. They did. And they did a fantastic job. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. Oh.
Thank you, Member Holloman, for sharing a little bit about the process. We had the chance to speak with some of the Polaris students involved in that process as they accompanied us to Juneau, and I think they did their due diligence, and I appreciate that effort enormously.
Yes.
And I will be supporting this.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Member Holloman.
Yes.
Vice President Jacobs.
Yes.
Member Lessons.
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Member Donnelly.
Yes.
President Bellamy.
Yes.
Madam President, I'd like to move unanimous consent if there's no objection.
We have one member that is not present at all. So that would be very difficult to do at this time, but we have a 6-0 vote. Thank you. That motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Missy. Next, memorandum number 120.
Madam President, I move to approve ASD Memorandum number 120 and adopt the attached school calendars for the school years of 2023-24, 2024-25, and 2025-26.
Second.
Moved in second to adopt the 23-26 school year calendars. Any discussion? Yes.
Could I ask the administration to please kind of summarize the process of how we got to these calendars, some of the core differences that they embody, and
you mean other than what was in Board Connect?
Yes, there was information in Board Connect. I was hoping to just have a little bit of a discussion.
Okay, Dr. Bishop.
Yes, Madam President. Dr. Stock, can you please assist?
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. So a little bit of background. The current basic formula for the calendars has really been pretty much the same since 2006 as far as starting, prior to Labor Day, ending prior to Memorial Day, and so on. Since 2006, between them and 2022, there have been a few minor changes overall to the calendar. Those are examples of things like additional professional development days, I think an asynchronous learning day, some discussion, debate over what to do with election days, Ferrandi Day. You may remember that discussion from a few years ago, but pretty much the tweaks have been minor. The process in October, March, and April, there were 3 full large meetings with a large group, and I want to acknowledge Andrew Ball, if he's in the room, if he can wave in the back there. Mm-hmm. Andrew was our lead from the Labor Department to work with the groups to do this, and did a very detailed look at it. And we took what we'd learned from all the previous years of working through calendars, and they created 2 basic calendar options. One we called traditional, which was essentially a template from the previous year and the years before that. It was basically the same. And then another one we called option B, which had a couple little tweaks to it. Those then went out to stakeholder meetings. And so we met with student advisory boards, the various labor groups, various external groups in the community, collected discussions and inputs about those. There were 2 open public meetings. They were held for the open public and advertised. And then in March and April, they published a community survey about those calendar options and came out with 2,700 actual survey responses and about 990 community comments. Mm-hmm. Then Andrew personally sat down, went through all 990 comments, categorized them around topics, and put numbers to them so we could capture what the community was saying. And then we made some slight adjustments. The final result of that was the split between calendar A and B was almost down the middle. There was less than a 1% difference in the survey responses. But when you factor in the community comments, it definitely went over to the calendar B. So calendar B, the way it's a little different is that there is an October 9th Indigenous Peoples Day, and there is an April 19th closure day. And those came from feedback from the community that were saying that April is a long haul with not one break. It is straight shot. And so they put a day in there just to have a longer weekend. The other thing that came from community feedback, when you factor in the 170 folks that said, I do not like the Friday start, I think Corey East and I had numerous conversations about the Friday start day is from the educator's perspective. And so we tweaked that and changed it. And so you'll see on the recommended calendar that it starts on Thursday, the 17th. And so that's pretty much what happened. Out of those 990 comments, the ones that had the most traction were comments about needing a day in April, wanting to see the Indigenous Peoples Day. That was a really big one with the students. The Student Advisory Board was almost unanimous about really wanting to see that on the calendar. And then, of course, the big one was comments about the Friday start day. So that's all that was taken into consideration. And when you put it all together, we tweaked it based on the community's input, and what you have in front of you is what I would call a sort of a tweaked calendar B that was out to the community with those changes. And so if you have specific questions about it, Andrew Ball is online here to answer details about it, as he did most of the lion's share of that work.
Thank you, Dr. Stock. Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I was trying to compare all 3, the 23-24 through 25-26 calendars. Speaking very personally, I really dislike the disruptions, especially in the month of February. It just always hits. It's choppy. But I know, and that's just a personal opinion, but I did notice that in the 23-24 month of February looks a little bit different than the 24-25 and 25-26 month of February, because the latter 2 years have the parent-teacher conferences and the 23rd, the start of Ferrandi in the same week as the 19th. And, you know, there are a lot of folks who look at that week and say, there's a week of winter vacation. So I guess I wonder if are there any ways to adjust any of these calendars to maximize student learning and minimize disruptions? Or have we done our due diligence and this is it?
Well, I believe we've done the due diligence. What I can tell you is when you lay out the list of statutory and CBA level things that are all requirements. The list is about this long. The reason things haven't changed dramatically since 2006 is when you put in all of the parameters you have to work under, this is what happens. And so we get these glitches. And so I don't know, Mr. Ball, if you have anything else you want to add to that? He says no.
Any other questions from the board? Comments? Yes.
One, I'd like to say this process is probably, in terms of gathering input from lots of different parts of ASD and from the public, the calendar committee is probably the one we do best at. It's a big committee, meets several times, and it's guided by staff, but it really does provide an honest chance for people to look at it and do the math and kind of see how it's all put together. And kind of understand some of the problems. I, at this point, would never make an amendment because I know how much discussion and all went into putting it together the way it is. But I do want to say a number of people I know that have served in the military find it frustrating that Veterans Day is either not a holiday or a school day. What we're doing is making it a professional development day where kids are away. But if you actually served in the military, you're expected to show up and work. And a lot of those people really enjoy teaching around Veterans Day. Or they'd like to have it off to go to ceremonies and honor their friends as well. And of course, if you make that a holiday, you bump the beginning of school by a day back in September, and that has issues. Putting together the calendar is tough, and every single decision impacts other things along the way, and I understand that. But I do want to say I think you'll hear this from some of our staff that have served that they would like it to be that way, but I don't have a motion in that regard. So.
Thank you for your comments. Back in the day, I served on the calendar committee, and that's not one of the things I ever want to do again, ever. Because it's just too many moving parts. Everybody has exactly a preference, like you stated, and there's just so much that goes into it that to change anything is going to cause dominoes in every which way. So I'm not, unless there's, but we do get to look at it every single, we can consider, but really, I think, I appreciate the work of the committee, and I think we got a lot of, did I hear 2,000 responses to our survey?
2,729.
Okay, great. That's a lot. That's a lot. But we were pushing it in our community council meetings as well. Fill out the survey. All right. So, okay. Member Donnelly.
I just want to thank the members of the committee for ensuring that we were returning to the traditional first day of a rendezvous holiday for students. It's a professional development release day, but at least the kids can go for rendezvous. And I've been advocating that ever since I've been on this board. It's been years. And so I'm really, really pleased to see that in these calendars, because that's just the way it always was when I was growing up here in Anchorage.
Oh, so see, you get your way, and now Kelly's not getting her way. Let's vote.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Member Lessons.
Yes.
Member Donnelly.
Yes.
Member Holloman.
Yes.
Vice President Jacobs.
Yes.
President Bellamy.
Yes. And Memorandum 120 passes 6 yeas and 1 not present. Thank you. That brings us to Memorandum number 122.
Madam President, I move to approve ASD Memorandum number 122, the addition of Board Policy BP 4212.8, employment of relatives.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Discussion. I think this was Member Holloman's. Was this did you want to speak to your?
It simply goes, I think it's information the board needs to be aware of. Not necessarily information they need to act on unless something appears as concerning, but I learned as a teacher in the school, the most important thing your principal really cares about is that they're never surprised. And so the idea is that the board should never be surprised to find out something that's going on in the district. And that was my motivation for submitting the changes.
Okay, Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. Vice President and then Vice President Hallman and I discussed this at length in governance, and I thank him for bringing the measure forward. It adds transparency and it ensures that the board is made aware of relevant information regarding employment, and so I appreciate it. Thank you all for being in support.
Any other discussion? I think that the processes that we have already covers this. I don't know that we need to change. It's not that I don't know if I'm not sure of the problem we're trying to fix with changing the policy. So, any other comments? Seeing none?
Member Donnelly.
Yes.
Member Holloman.
Yes.
Member Wilson.
Yes.
Vice President Jacobs.
Yes.
Member Lessons.
Yes.
President Bellamy.
No. And that motion passes 5 yeas, 1 nay, and 1 not present. Thank you. That moves us to agenda item I, non-action items. They'll come back to you next time we meet. We have no one signed up for public comment in our second round. So that brings us to our superintendent update.
Thank you, Madam President. And I think Mr. Holloman's talking about no surprises is apropos. And I think when I was hired, I said the same thing. I won't surprise you and don't surprise me. But for the act of no surprises, I wanted you to get an update on our closing out the school year with COVID-19 and our protocols, sharing some information. We're going to have our experts come up to the table, share the information of our grants and processes that are coming to an end and our new protocols as we move into the summer. As you are aware, if you were on the board last year, which everyone was, that the summer and school break times are when we made those changes. So with that, I present to you our health services dynamic team. Please introduce yourselves. And you may begin.
Okay. We have some slides. Oh, you have them up for us. Great. Hi, I'm Kathy Bell, and I'm the Director of Healthcare Services, and I'm a nurse. And I am Kayla McClelland, and I'm the Senior Director of Healthcare Services, and we're looking forward to giving you guys an update around the current environment as we look to close out the year, move into summer, and then our evolving approach to COVID and infectious diseases as we look to next year and the years beyond. So I'll get started. Can you hear me okay? So this year has been yet another year of changes for all of us. And I appreciate all the support ASD administration, staff, and school board has shown us. I'm just going to give you a little history here to start with and information about what's currently going on in our city. Hospital admissions are finally down. The largest hospital in Alaska, Providence, Alaska Medical Center, only had 8 COVID cases this past Sunday, most of which were incidentals. Many of the hospitalizations over the past 2 months, especially those identified in children, are positive for other respiratory illnesses, not COVID. There have been things like rhinovirus, adenovirus, RSV, parainfluenza, and then the typical flu, just to name a few. Alaska has many COVID protections available to us now. The COVID vaccine, boosters, monoclonal antibodies, antivirals, and for many, natural immunity, all of you that tested positive at some point. COVID has also mutated to an illness that is causing less severe or no symptoms to many. So our community has embraced their protections in many different ways. While on the topic of vaccines and boosters, I just wanted to remind all of you how proud I am to be an ASD employee. We, the Anchorage School District, led the COVID vaccine initiative in our community by giving 27,103 adult vaccines and 3,674 pediatric vaccines. We led the way, and I'm so proud of that. In moving forward, I have consulted with professionals in our medical field, primarily American Academy of Pediatrics, the Alaska chapter, pediatric hospitalists, intensivists at the Providence Alaska Medical Center, and our local pediatricians. And they are all as confident as I am that our plan for summer school and next fall is strong and sound. So we'll switch to the next slide now. And here are some highlights of our plan to move forward. Some of the changes are already in place and others are to follow. The Beech Tree PCR testing will be ending May 19th, last day of students in school. The Beacon Trailer contract also ends on May 19th. Summer school nurses will move into using antigen testing just for summer school for June. Positives will go home and follow our same protocol per CDC guidelines. Anybody that's positive. Negatives with milder illnesses may stay at school while masked while waiting for a second test, because as we know on the antigen test, the first test is not totally accurate. You have to do 2 tests. We'll do the tests according to the time frame recommended by the instructions of the type of antigen test we're doing. If negative, the second test comes back negative, a mask can be removed and the student will stay at school. If positive, then they'll follow the CDC or ASD standing protocols. Antigen testing will be done for staff and students that become ill at school only. Parents will still need to consent for us to be doing the testing. I'm excited to say that we have already moved away from symptom-free as of May 2nd. Nurses will move to using good nursing judgment along with good assessment skills to determine if a student needs to go home or not. Students with symptoms that impede their learning will be sent home. Students with milder symptoms will be evaluated and may be allowed to stay at school. And not every student will need testing, as what we've been doing in the past. When returning to school after an illness, students and staff will not be required to test before returning to school after an illness. Right now, if they come back, their parent calls them in sick, they have to have a test before returning to school. We are going to be eliminating that and using our nursing judgment and nursing assessment skills. Students will not need to stay home for 5 days if they choose not to test. If they choose to test and have positive results, again, the student will follow, or staff member will follow CDC and ASD guidelines. Parents will be encouraged to keep their child home for illnesses in line with stay-at-home guidelines. ASD is officially shifting away from district-conducted COVID-19 testing for the next school year, August 2022. COVID testing will still be available in the community, just not at ASD. We, the Anchorage School District, do not have funding to continue with testing, and with COVID positives decreasing and less severe illness for those that are positive, testing is really not needed any further in the school district. Anchorage School District will get back to educating our children and keeping our children at school.
Thank you. And just to add to, as we close out our testing for this year, those were funded primarily through some of our partnership grants, both at the municipal and state level. So our 6 trailers that were contracted through Beacon, the funding for those is closing out the end of this month. And so we will be closing those down. And then the broader funding for testing in all schools also ends June 30th. So we'll be wrapping in and closing out some of those grants as we head into next year. So really to kind of add on to what Kathy's saying is we've had a lot of change in learning in the last couple of years. I'll go even as far as saying a lot of innovation. And we've really moved from this place of uncertainty to this place of resourced readiness. We as a district have had a lot of practice. And underpinning all of our efforts was this idea of mitigation. How are we preventing the spread of illness? And then in response to that, we built comprehensive systems to support those mitigation efforts. We scaled up, we scaled back down, we scaled back up, and we became efficient and effective in all of those mechanisms. And then throughout that, as I talked about with our grants, we learned how to be a pivotal and excellent public health partner. We worked alongside federal, state, and municipal public health parties to successfully navigate this pandemic. It wasn't easy, but we learned how to collaborate and communicate to swiftly change large systems. I guess all of that to just really kind of emphasize that we're experienced in our district, from the teachers to the TAs all the way up to our superintendent. We know how to respond to infectious diseases. And as we move forward, we need to broaden our focus and really consider looking at all infectious diseases. And underpinning that need, I want to draw us back to an example. Back in the fall of 2019, Rogers Park had an outbreak, you all may recall. And luckily it turned out to be the flu. It was contained, but those things will happen. The environment will throw things our way that we need to respond to. And these last 2 years have supported a lot of innovation and learning, and we've built strong systems by which we can respond effectively and efficiently as we look to the future. Really what we are doing moving forward is codifying this learning. Currently we have Annex 10, that's our emergency operations annex. And really this is a high level 10,000 foot view plan. And it really discusses how we will be a partner as part of a larger public health response. What this plan does not outline is what it takes to move this system in response. So we will be adding Annex 10.1, the infectious disease response readiness and sustainment plan. And really the purpose of this is more operationally focused, and it's going to integrate the learning we've had over the last few years. And it's really to create a framework to sustain that continuous state of readiness. I'm going to describe a little bit of what that means as we look at the 3 tiers that are outlined in this annex. There is prevention and preparedness, modified operations, and school closures. And under prevention and preparedness, that's really where we will be retaining a lot of what we've learned through these last couple of years, such as hygiene, promoting hand washing, both through teaching and education, and then those visual cues throughout the school buildings. Sanitizing, such as our hand sanitizers will continue to be available in classrooms and at the school settings, also broader distribution of sanitizing solutions, both at the classroom level and at the building level. Masks will remain optional and available in all schools. And then last but not least, vaccine education, support, and linkage. We've been doing this predating the pandemic. Our nurses have really led this effort for decades, and we will continue to do that as we look to the future. And next, as we move into those latter tiers, modified operations and school closures, those really build off that first tier where we look at if there is a known outbreak or illness, how are we to respond? And we'll look through the lens of group, team, classroom, school, district. How are we assessing the need and then modifying and adjusting based on that? Really, the goal here is that we are nimble and agile to respond. We are allocating resources effectively, and we're not making a blanket response for in a district when we can contain at the classroom or the group level. I'll again go back to we are resourced and prepared, whether that's distributing meals during a nationwide or global lockdown or making sure there's hand sanitizer available in the classrooms. Our teams have been amazing and they know how to respond. So as we look to the future, we'll really have this annex to guide us as we focus not just on COVID, but really on broader infectious diseases overall. And so we are excited as we close out this year to really codify our learning, to send students off to an exciting summer, and to hopefully see our numbers continue to decline and look forward to next year. So with that, we just want to open for any questions.
Thank you. Great report. Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Madam President. One of my greatest concerns in dealing with any future closing of schools is that we do not repeat, I think was an incredible mistake, of going to a minimum of 1 hour a day for only 4 days a week of virtual learning. We need to make an assessment. I think that was a horrible failure for our students and our families, and we're paying the price for that now. And we need to prevent that from ever happening again. We need an accurate assessment of what the minimum amount of time instructors should spend with their students in virtual learning, and have that incorporated into that contingency plan.
Madam President, that's actually for me. You guys really don't do the educational part, and you've shared that about 10 times, and we understand, and there was no plan to harm children.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
Madam President.
Member Jacobs?
Thank you.
And then, did you have, no? Member Donnelly, Member Jacobs, why don't you, you had a comment or a question?
Yeah, thank you both for the report. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to see some of the planning we're doing. And what I think I'm hearing is from a policy standpoint, we're prepared for whatever comes next, which is helpful. From a with grants ending, with federal funds curtailing, from a financial standpoint, from a just an equipment standpoint, are we ready from that aspect as well?
Yeah, can you put it a little closer? Could you get a little closer? We can't.
Yep, sure. So what I'm hearing from a policy standpoint, we're ready for next year, regardless as to what comes next. From a funding standpoint, from an equipment standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, are we ready there too? Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate that clarification. The 10-20 hour might have curtailed a little bit of my presentation, but yes, we will really incorporate it in this, and that's why the title says readiness and sustainment. We really retained what we could sustain moving forward, and yes, those supplies and equipment are prepared to head into the next year. And we, through that idea of relationship, should there be a need in the future, we know how to collaborate, pursue other funding to add those things back in that if needed.
Thank you.
Madam President, and may I just add that at the very beginning of this pandemic, it was the preparedness of ASD that supplied every hospital and every doctor's thing with tens of thousands of face masks that people didn't have. And so ASD has prided itself on being prepared, and the operations folks and George Vacalis for years, those connexes were purposeful. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Lessons, comment?
Really a note of gratitude, and I think we heard gratitude from J-Bear as well earlier this evening with the vaccine clinics that were run and the efficiency with that. So that's a special note of gratitude for Mr. Roth as well for your leadership and all of
that. Through the president, I just have to say that, and I appreciate your comment, but it was really Nurse Bell. Really, when you get down to the brass tacks of doing the vaccinations, it was Kathy Bell.
And all the nurses too.
And the nurses, exactly, that Kathy organized that effort.
Thank you.
So that's a note of collective gratitude.
Yes, for sure. Member Holloman.
Also, I want to say that, when the clinic was operating in this building, there was a lot of staff from the building doing logistics. I don't think you just let, like the foreign languages people stab people in the arm or anything, but they were directing traffic and doing things. And I think for a lot of people, it was like the first time we could really do something other than sit at home. Talking to people that normally don't have a lot of contact with the Anchorage School District, they really came away with a sense of enthusiasm They were really impressed by the organization. A lot of them were really happy they were able to get the vaccine. That of course, is a central part, but they really liked the way the district did what it did in delivering it. And it, I think, has changed the outlook that a fair number of citizens have towards the district. That's been their contact. You know, they're older, their kids have come and gone. They don't go to school events. They're not seeing that, but they came through this building and it was very orderly. It was very quick. Everything was explained and they were in, they were watched, they were out. At community council meetings, it really changed the tone of how people talked about the district. So thank you very much for that.
Yes, Member Lessons.
I'm sorry for the follow-up, but an individual, an older community member came up to me 2 or 3 days ago and said that he believes that the Anchorage School District saved his life. So I thought I should share that.
Right. Excellent report, ladies. Thank you so much. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, our dynamic duo. I now am going to turn it over to Dr. Stock, who let me know that this is his last regular board meeting because he is, just so you know, he is extreme marathon runner and is running a over 30-mile race with his sister to really commemorate and celebrate his brother's life that he lost last year. And so I just want to thank him for always being support and also tag team him on this next item. So thank you, Dr. Stock. And he'll let us know. He leaves before meetings and everything to go run 10 miles and then comes back. So he's amazing.
So thank you, Dr. Bishop. Just a couple of summer learning points. I know it's getting late, but we do have a robust summer school plan. We've got about 7,000 students that will be coming through at 28 different sites. We've got about 2,000 students getting specific transportation, about just under 1,000 staff members. That includes everything from principals to paras and custodians, etc. One change from last year is that the summer programs will just exist in June. We had a really big drop off in the July session last year. And so to use our time wisely, we are focusing strictly on June with the exception of the special ed extended school year plans and the 21st Century Community, which is a federal grant. They will continue into July, but our programs will be through the month of June. I want to get at something that Member Lessons brought up in the earlier work session today. She raised the question about, summer school, the return on investment for it. And I just want to let you know that I've had a meeting with Dr. Akes and I've asked them to do a study. I mean, we're all aware that summer slide is a real thing and it happens in almost all homes, right? Kids are in school for 9 months and then summer comes. There are some homes that can stem the summer slide, but they're the families that go to the library every week and read books and go to the museums and do all those things, right? But for the average individual, there is a summer slide. And that if you're tracking your MAP scores or skills from the spring session to the fall session, what I've asked our assessment evaluation team to do is to do a matched study of our students who don't go to summer school with students who do go to summer school. And we'll look at the differences between the spring and the fall that's independent of that to see what kind of changes occur. Now, we know summer school is good for kids, even if it doesn't show up in those assessments, right? So it's not saying it's an indictment on having summer school, but the question about return on investment is a good one, because what if there is no difference? Then are we better off to put that $7 million into the school year with extended activities? And so those are just decisions that we're making. We're going to be looking at the data closely, and I think this would get at Member Lesson's question in the earlier work session today.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Stock. And if there's additional information put on your handouts so that you can have talking points when you go to your meetings. But if there's any specific questions, we can, especially about this, we can answer them in the Board Connect.
Excellent.
So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Can we get this electronically?
Yes, absolutely. We'll stick it in the Board Connect this Friday as well.
Oh, it's in Board Docs. You said. Okay, great.
Madam President, one quick
Yes.
question. So if it's a June session, like what are the dates?
Great question. I
Or
didn't
like
write
3
those down.
weeks, 4 weeks?
It's a 4-week session, 20 days. And so it starts, there's a day or two difference between the elementary and the middle school, and I don't have those.
We'll
I'll
get
put them
those dates in the Board
Connect.
Connect. Yeah. That's good information. And actually, we will update this flyer with those dates.
Yeah.
But the ones on the bottom that are very specific, they have much separate, they have very discrete dates. So
Correct.
We'll get those in there.
Okay, great.
And finally, Madam President, the last part of this, actually, before I get to this, I wanted to share that administration has been just recently notified by the debate folks last week, in fact, during graduations, and we set up a meeting for next week to meet with them. So it was our surprise that they were here because we didn't even get an opportunity to have a meeting. We support debate. Remember, when middle schools changed their schedules and went to 7 period, some of the schools altered some of those when they changed staffing, when they added that second prep time in. The planning time, something else went away. So if you recall about 3 years ago when we did that work, debate was one of those things that they made choices on. But this just came up to us. So we haven't even, we've scheduled a meeting for next week. Dr. Stock texted me, so did Dr. Johnson. And so we're delighted to meet. We just need an opportunity to do that. Yeah. So I just wanted to share with the board. And then also, because we couldn't meet last week, this is what we were doing, celebrating. Actually, 10 graduations occurred at the Alaska Airlines Center, and we wanted to share just some of the successes. You were all there at different times, and so this is just going to roll through. We've had such a great evening every evening. I can share and I did share at one of them that the people that have attended all of the graduations were Marty Lang, Holly Zumbro, myself, and every single tech guy. They were all men, and the tech lady. And so we just shared like, oh, what happened in this one? And so they were all, again, what we won't try to strive in the district is to standardize what we can do so that we know there's access and there's quality. And then we want our schools to customize and make it their flavor to their school. So standardization and customization, and that's what we saw at graduation. And as these come to an end, I am just going to share member lessons, and I got to hear this at the very end. And the last graduation was the middle college last week at the Alaska Airlines Center. And we were surprised the principals shared the class of 2022 earned a total of 4,267 college credits, saving college tuition value of $1.1 million to families. And again, I shared it's not free. That was some of the words that the kids used. But basically, we used the BSA Smarter for choices that students wanted. And 8 students qualified for an associate's degree and their high school diploma at the same time. And they earned 60 or more credits. One person earned 90 credits, a little over 90. And then 2 National Merit Scholar finalists were there. He also gave over the past 5 years. So I want to thank the board for supporting me and an idea that I had done in a previous district. And the school is, in the theory and the design of it is about 9 years old. But over the past 5 years, just in ASD, there's been 1,302 students and a total of over 20,000 college credits with a $10 million savings to families. And so it is a true really very diverse class that attends there, and kids attend for different reasons. But what we've always done, whether it's partnership, family partnership, King Tech, or any one of our homeschools, like middle college, when they don't have those other things in schools, kids always are allowed to keep one foot back in for sports or band in their home school. And so the support of the high school principals as well as secondary to make this work was also really must be mentioned, because it doesn't, things like this to support kids don't happen on their own, and it took the ASD team. So thank you. And that concludes the report on graduations. And we have on Thursday a couple more. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Bishop. All right. So that brings us to item L, comments. I'll start. Let's start. Okay, Kelly, we'll start with you and go around the other way.
Well, I had some really favorite moments from graduation, but I'm gonna begin where Dr. Bishop ended. My favorite moment was when she told the graduates of the middle college program to look under their seats.
Oh.
And they all did. They were baffled and before. Then they started waving around dollar bills. And she said the take home was that you have to move your booty to make a buck. And that was a really good take home message. And it was effectively
Kind of
delivered.
like leave your butt at the door.
Anyways, it was
cool.
It was also a really,
was there really a buck?
there was really $1 under every chair. So whoever
And
got,
I want to go on record. Mr. Anderson was here. Everything. It was my own personal money.
Oh,
It was just a
good.
send off of the last, and I stuck him under there. So yeah.
yeah. So that was it was great, and it was also a nice chance to recognize the partnership with UAA.
Yeah.
Also at that particular ceremony was a student whose name was Joseph, and he was the first graduate of the partnership with the Lower Yukon-Kuskokwim School District. And he had a smile about a mile wide. So I'll leave it there. It was a great chance to celebrate our students, all of them. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Member Holloman.
Pretty much what other people have said, although I'm not sure that I would want to hear any educators say that out loud in a school, but you can get away with it now. But also I did have comments from several people that felt like graduation was done really well. And there are people that don't always admire the way we handle large events and things like that, but they really thought it was organized. There was room for kids to be a little bit different, to be customized. And it was just appreciated. And certainly the service ceremony went off beautifully. And I thought it was really well done as too.
Yeah, thank you. Member Jacobs.
Thank you, Madam President. I will echo Member Holloman's comments about the graduation being a very smooth and easy process. It was great to be back together again. I know last year we were outside. This year it kind of had the air of a bit of normalcy, which was nice. I think I attended the Betty Davis East Anchorage High School, and I think the most controversial thing was one of the student speakers giving out the daily Wordle answer. And so beyond that, I think it went really well. I do want to congratulate all the 2022 graduates, as well as all the staff tonight recognized. Thank you for those who came out and took time to testify, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Donnelly.
Yeah, the school business partnership team folks had their last meeting of the school year. They're just a great asset to our district, and I thank them for everything they're doing. I also had a chance to attend the MERS 4.0 breakfast, which I hadn't been familiar with that event before. It was really exciting for me when I went to MERS, it was in a whole different building, but they got the new building, and it was really amazing how many of their students had 4.0s, and they were being honored. And then the Diamond graduation, I just appreciate the board allowing me to attend that on behalf of the board. It was super special for me, as it was my 50th year since graduating from Diamond.
Oh.
And the kids just couldn't have been better. They were wonderful. And what a great bunch of students we've got. I'm just really optimistic about how great they're going to do in the future and what great futures they're going to have. I am a broken record about the virtual learning. And if we're going to do a plan for it ever happening again, I think it's essential that we have an agreement and something in there about the minimum amount of direct instruction time. I had advocated that be in the AEA contract. It doesn't address it, and I think it should have. But I just think that it's just too important to our students not to have a plan to deal with it better than we did last time. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. Member Wilson.
Yes, I just wanted to say again, congratulations to, excuse me, all of our Denali Award winners. I've had the pleasure of being able to firsthand see the work done by the folks at the Child in Transition program for many years. And because of their support and always willing to go out of their way for students, they have helped many, many students to graduate. I was a little bummed that I didn't get to celebrate with them in person tonight, but I always appreciate their efforts. I had the pleasure of attending the Bartlett graduation, and it was so very sweet. They presented me with a corsage. So they said that is their tradition. And it was just really nice. The staff had such great energy and the students had great energy. So I really enjoyed that. Also wanted to share that the communications committee is scheduled to take place on Wednesday, May 25th at noon.
Thank you. And I won't echo what everybody else has said, but our students did have a wonderful graduation. And I just want to thank the staff that worked with them to make that happen. And I want to congratulate their parents as well. Member Jacobs and I attended the Korean American Scholarship event. That really was a very short but very nice event where the Korean American Society gave scholarships to our students. And that was just a wonderful event. We also did the Fairview renaming. I want to thank Dr. Hunt for her work on that. It was a little chilly outside, but the hearts were warm, and we all had a really good time. I actually had a good time because I saw people there that I hadn't seen in years. It was great. And then for ropes today, Dr. Bishop and myself and Member Lessons went over to Rogers Park. And I'm telling you, I'm just blown away. There was one kid, rope stands for rites of passage, something.
Experiences?
Experiences. Anyway, one of the sessions, I had two wonderful sessions, but the one that was absolutely amazing to me was a sixth grader who had already he did it on SAT study skills. SAT, sixth grade. He's taken it like 5 times. And he challenges himself every single time. He's teaching other sixth graders how to do how to take this and study for the SAT. I don't think at sixth grade I even knew what the SAT was. So there's amazing things going on in our district. I want to thank everybody. Yes, you absolutely can.
Madam President, I just wanted to add one thing that I didn't want it to go unsaid, that secondary graduations and the planning really began last August, and it was Dr. Kersen and her team that followed through with that. So we all enjoyed them, and we just want to share with you that I know that Kirsten's mom's funeral occurred during that same week, but we let her know how proud we were and how really the families loved it. So I wanted to give a personal thanks to her and her team for carrying that out. It's always difficult to change things around here, and that was a major change, and it was successful. So thank you.
Great. Will next year be at the center again? Good, because that worked perfect.
Yes.
Yes. And the timing in between the graduations was good too, because people did loiter. They stayed out in the parking lot a long time, but it didn't matter because there was time in between. Any other comments from anyone in the boardroom, in our gallery, our amazing gallery? Seeing none. I know, they're giving me the. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Seeing no opposition.